work in our lab is testing humans with different type of techniques. Often it is just behavior, but we also do fMRI, or we do EEG or TMS. And many of the experiments were just basically interrupted within a week, and we couldn't continue it. So we still have some ongoing experiments which were basically just aborted at this time. And it will be a question if we can reuse the data, because the subjects haven't done the task for a long time, and usually we rely on that the subjects do the experiments within a rather confined period. So in some way we might even lose the experiments, including some MRI studies in the hospital. On the other hand, there are quite some tasks we could continue. For example, of course, writing manuscripts. That's something you can do from home very easily. And we do also quite some conceptual work, even including philosophical work. And that in some way we could continue quite well. In some way, maybe it has improved a little bit because, you know, there's some extra time, and maybe also a little bit, the situation is a little bit more relaxed because a couple of meetings don't happen. And so in some way, we could potentially put a little bit more efforts in our philosophical and computational work. We're working on perception, so we thought about maybe these quarantine in some way changes perception, how we perceive the world, because there's less activity. There's some theories that say that motor activity is quite important. So we thought about it, but the time was too short to basically have a before and an after comparison. So for this reason, we thought about it. It had been cute, it had been a nice idea, but we couldn't manage in this short time. I think the quarantine had the positive experience that, you know, slowing down is maybe always a good idea. And having more thinking things through, that's definitely a good thing. I hope I can keep this. I got much more familiar with digital media, but my feeling is that, contrary to what most people believe, that this is the beginning of a new era of digital teaching and remote teaching, my feeling is that's not going to happen. When I was a student, quite a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago or so, this was the first time when all basically remote video conferencing came up, even actually remote surgery, medical surgery. And people thought, oh, in 20 years, there will be no conferences except for video conferences. Obviously, that didn't happen. You know, we have more conferences than ever. And I think people misunderstood something about this at this time. They said the important issue about a conference is basically just transporting information. It is just giving a talk, giving the talk yourself, or listen to talk, and that's it. But actually, that's not the important point, because you can read a paper or look at a YouTube video and things like this. The important point is basically meeting people and exchanging information you usually don't exchange. So it's basically, you meet people, you don't have too close contact, but they're not too far. And you bump into each other and you talk to each other. And you're talking about each other's research in a way you usually don't talk about when you write a paper. It's much more honest, there's things between the lines, and it's basically about future work, it's about interpretation. And I think as long as the media don't manage to have something like this, maybe you need a virtual floor where you can bump into people. If things like this would happen, maybe. But at the moment, I think we misunderstood actually what the real benefit of a conference is.